Hi, welcome back, hello to the Hall Monitor of the Universe show, episode two? I can only say dos, I can say it in 3 languages, dos, two, and do, is do French, sorry, listen, you may or may not see a nip slip. If you're just listening, you're definitely not going to see it unless you have magical powers, but I dressed cute, provocatively, because we are going to already nip slip. We are going to discuss, I may have to change. Let's just get a little closer. I guess when YouTube says, is this made for kids? But I'm allowed to show my nipples, right? I'm allowed to show my nipples because I am, quote unquote, a gender assigned man. Even though I am wearing, I don't know why I'm yelling. But even though I am wearing a women's dress, women's, quote unquote, don't get me started about men and women's things. It's fucking garbage, okay? It should all just be things. But anyways, I'm wearing a quote unquote women's dress that's very plunging if you're listening. And I was going to say I might get in trouble for showing my nips, but I won't, because I'm a gender-assigned man, and I can run down the street, jogging down the street in teeny tiny little shorts with everything hanging out, as long as my cock and balls aren't fucking flip-flopping around on the street for y'all to see, okay? With me running down the street, you'd probably only see cock and balls and be like, not cock and balls, just the balls. Like, what happened? Is that person okay? Is that, I mean, even, I do get occasionally, is that a man or a woman by a child? If you saw the downstairs area, I think you'd ask the same question. You'd just be like, what is that? Listen, I came on here to talk about something to intro my guest. What the hell was I going to... It doesn't matter. What I'm going to talk about, what I've been talking about, is how fucking stupid women can't have their tits out. Now, do I want to see, I know, segue, but I was talking about tits. Anyways, do I want to see women running down the street with their big old knockers flip-flopping around? No, I don't. But at the same time, they should. We haven't asked women if they want to see men running down the street with all their shit flip-flopping everywhere if they're in teeny tiny shorts, right? Do they want to see that? I mean, I do. I do if the equipment is correct. Okay, if the equipment's correct, which here in Central Texas it usually isn't, but women should have the same free. Why do we sexualize tits, breasts? Why do we sexualize them? Why have we sexualized them? Why can't you guys, I mean, for God's sake, let a bitch breastfeed. Goes into that too. If someone wants to breastfeed in public, let them plop their tit out and feed the child, for God's sake. Right? Why do we sexualize women more than men? Why? Why? Because we hate women. As a society, we hate women. I mean, look what's just happening with Roe versus Wade got flipped. Now you can't get abortions in certain states. But guess what? Gay marriage, we're protecting that, which, hallelujah, same-sex marriage, we're taking steps to protect that. Women's rights, who cares? Because we hate women, right? We hate women. We want them to be covered up. We want them to be barefoot, at home, pregnant, so the men can run around and frolic with all the whores and faggots. Oh! Anyways, listen, do I think it's stupid? Do I think assigning clothing to a gender is stupid? Fuck yeah. Do I think assigning colors to a gender is stupid? Fuck yeah. But do I also think that women should be able to show their tits if they want? Fuck yeah, bitch. Show them. Fucking show them. I love them. Okay? Not saying that I necessarily want to see them all the time, tits everywhere, but like I said, why do we let men show all their shit off everywhere? You know? Anyways, let's get into it. This is my dear best friend in the whole entire world, Marte. Marte's party, and we're going to talk about, I believe, relationships with psychopaths. Here we go. Let's get into it. Everyone, welcome back to the Hall Monitor of the Universe show. I'm here with my very best friend. I mean, sometimes. Marte's Parte. How are you? Marte's her name.
Good. I'm great. Amazing. Do you love my shirt?
I do love your shirt. Tell us where you got it from.
Well, this really super luxurious boutique made it specifically for me.
My God, the boutique. And what's the boutique's name?
Hall Monitor of the Universe.
Oh my God. So everybody, you can't get this. You have to be a best friend of mine to get this, but it's a Target shirt. And then I just fucked up my pavement in my garage to do that.
But now that I think about it, you should have merch.
I will listen. The tie dye. Listen. Let's just get through the first couple episodes of this. But yes, I am here for merch. I don't like how this. If I sit like this, it looks like my tit is like low. You know what I'm saying? But if I go back like this,
I
you're like,
love your giving with
they
the
look exactly the
necklace.
same. Real quick, I finished Wednesday. Cute.
Super cute. I loved it.
I'm not gonna say I loved it, but I think it was cute. I think it was obvious, kind of like from the beginning, who was, the bad guy.
Oh, totally.
I feel like they showed you. They completely were like, "This is the bad guy." Like,
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into this. Well, let's talk about what I thought me and Marte should talk about is exes, crazy exes, abusive exes, gaslighting exes. Um, do we know any other type of exes?
That's all my exes.
What? Where should we start? Should we talk? I mean, who was your first wonderful ex that like you
I have
felt?
zero, I have zero wonderful exes.
Well, who was your first ex that you felt like this may be the last time I see the day of light, if you know what I mean? Did
I
you
mean,
ever?
to be honest, I only have two exes, like serious relationships. And I think it's part in because my very first relationship was in high school and it started off very abusive from the beginning. So all I ever knew was toxic drama, trauma, And so after that, I would only date or sleep around, like here and there. But that relationship lasted, a span of 13 years off and on. I started when I was 14 and I finally got away when I was 27.
How old were you? How old was he?
He was 15. So we were just a year apart, 14 and 15.
The same as me and James.
Yeah.
Like 1 year apart at least.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Whatever. Listen, he'll come on the show. I'm not going to talk about him. So,
On the next episode.
do you feel like? So what happened? Like at 14. So for you guys, honestly, so let's just paint a picture. We know that we look younger than what you probably think, but we're pretty fucking old. Like when we were in school, there was no cell phones. That cell phones came out right when we were graduating from high school, so that'll give you a little time frame. And these are cell phones prior to having any internet Wi-Fi. So these are cell phones literally used to just call
Yeah. They didn't
people.
even text people back
Right.
then.
So we had no context, no internet, no nothing. No, the only people that we really knew to tell us advice was like friends or family members,
Yeah.
parents, which historically our parents, I'll talk about mine. We're not the best to get advice from. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And my biological dad was also very abusive. And my mom was with him when she was 13 until she met my stepdad when she was like 21. So I think I already, even though they were only together a couple of years of my life, I witnessed their relationship growing up and how toxic that was. And then my stepdad, he even admitted that he wasn't 100% like being my father, when I was young. So all I ever saw was kind of these toxic men in toxic relationships. So when I was 14 and I met my ex, we met at a football game. He was actually flirting with a friend of mine. He was there with like a friend of mine, which I should have like took as a red flag to begin with.
You're
But
14. You don't even know what a red flag is.
I was 14. I was a virgin. I had only had one boyfriend before that, and all we did was peck, like I don't even think oh yeah, we French kissed, but like, I was very young and and he was attractive. A lot of the girls were like, ooh, he's so cute. So I'm like, oh my God. And he started flirting with me at this game. And so, of course, you're just like, oh my God. And I didn't feel cute at 14. I wasn't like pretty. I was a little chubby. I didn't do my hair or makeup. Like, I had no, like, the thought of a boy being interested in me at that time, I was like, what?
Right. I feel like
And
14 is very transition, like 15, 16, like, yeah, we're getting into, yeah, totally.
yeah, 15, 16, you come into your own like style. Like I was in ninth grade. It was literally like the first week of school. Like we met in September. So I had just come from summer break of being in eighth grade, so I was still very immature. And he started like love bombing me very quickly from the beginning. Like he wanted to be my boyfriend, and he was like, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and we need to hang out all the time. So I didn't ever have like I said, my one boyfriend before that was like a month long. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it turned sexual pretty quickly after only a month of dating. Yeah. And then after that,
And I'm assuming
like,
you weren't his first.
No.
Okay.
He didn't sleep with a lot of people before me, but I still
How could he? I mean, he's only 15, for God's sake.
Right. And so I just feel like the mental and emotional abuse started early on. I just didn't know any different, because I didn't have much experience to compare it to. And
so what do you mean by like, so mentally, like the only thing that's triggering me is like you said you were a little chunky. So like would he tell you those kind of things? Would he put you down?
Not right away, but he would make like backhanded comments about my weight, or like compare me to other girls, but then be like, oh, but you're perfect. I love you. But those little things would stick in the back of your head, like I remember specifically one time I was wearing like a halter top, and he was like, you shouldn't wear halter tops because it makes you look like a linebacker. Like your shoulders are too wide. And I was like, oh, okay. And at this time I was probably like a size 5. Like I was like going back, like I was between like a size 5 and 9, which is pretty small for high school. All my friends were like size 0. So to me, I felt fat.
Right.
But when all your friends are so petite, a size 5, you're like, oh, I'm huge. And then he's like, you look like a linebacker. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to help you. That's what he would say. Like, well, I'm just trying to help you. Like, so you look nice. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, so I never like wore halter tops again.
Back then, there wasn't a movement of like having your own body. I mean, back in what is this, 90s, right? We're in the 90s right now. Back in the 90s, if you even look back at TV and stuff like that, everyone was like a size 0, 00. All the girls were like stick thin. So, I mean, we as a culture did not have people like Lizzo, or I don't know why I can only think of Lizzo right now, but no, there's more, obviously. I'm just the main pop star, like someone that's out there just being who they want to be. She just popped in my head, but like we didn't have that type of reference back then.
Or even back then, think like one of the popular movies back at that time was like Titanic. And I remember people saying that Kate Winslet was like a big actress. And now you look
Like
back and you're like, what?
Like a fat actress.
Yeah, like that's how people kind of talked
and
about
she was butt naked in that movie. I remember, I mean, I saw that movie a million times when I was younger, and like I never thought that. I don't know. I guess maybe I thought it later on, but I never thought that until I was
I mean,
put off.
as a girl, a young girl, I feel like they put it in my head. I always thought she looked great, but then I would see it in magazines and it'd be like, because back then we didn't have, Perez Hilton. We had like the OK or Us Weekly, and you'd open it and it'd be like, look how fat she is, or look at her in her swimsuit. Like everything was so negative about if you had any type of body, you
Right.
know, and all I had was, Teen Magazine and YM magazine. Like we didn't have the
Yeah.
internet to look for stuff. And in magazines, all you see are these very thin women. So it, early on, he made comments about my weight, and then it would turn into he got really jealous too. So that's kind of how the emotional abuse started. Like I couldn't even talk to guys in like a class. Like just a guy in my class, we'd be leaving and a guy would be friendly. He'd be like, why the hell are you talking to him? And blah, blah, blah. And you're such a hoe and you're a slut. And like, that's all how it started. And
Like
then
the
we would break up.
manipulation.
What?
Like manipulation, like
Yes.
tactics. Yeah.
Yes. And definitely like gaslighting me. And, I started distancing myself from my friends. Like I was very social, but he started isolating me and wanting to spend all the time with me. I started ditching school to hang out with him. We were to get, I would lie to my parents and say I'm going to a friend's house and go sleep at his house. His mom wasn't really involved, so she didn't care if I slept over. And it became just very intense very quickly. And then we would break up all the time. So, like, every few months, he would find a reason to be mad at me and blame me so he can go like cheat on me. So then that started very early on where we would fight. I wouldn't hear from him for a weekend because we didn't have cell phones, and I would hear at school a few days later, like, oh, did you hear he hung out with so and so? And she would come to school with like a hickey on her neck. And, I just felt stupid from really early on. And then he would come back and be like, I'm so sorry. I love you. She's nothing compared to you. I was just stupid. And so that cycle began very early on. And a lot of us were dealing with toxic boys back then.
A
So
lot of
even
us
going
still
to my
are.
Exactly. So even going to my friends for advice, it was like, well, their boyfriends were doing the same thing. So I'm like, okay, well, this is just normal. Like, this is
The way
how guys,
society is. Yes.
yeah,
Right.
we just let them treat us badly. We're like, okay, like, this is normal. It's fine, And so this, went on for years. And
So
I
cut
mean, he
to
didn't,
like you being so like say because we've worked many places together over the years. We worked together at Euphoria, which was a hair salon where you were front desk and I was a hairstylist. So like didn't something crazy happen there? I don't remember. There's so many crazy things that happened, but didn't something crazy happen in the back parking lot?
yes. So
Not laughing, but
we
like
started we started being friends, you and I, when we worked at Express.
Express. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I wasn't even 21 yet. I think I
When
was still
Express,
only,
when the men's Express was called Structure, children. This is how fucking old we are. Anyways, go on.
right? I worked, I think I was like 19 and I worked there. And so him and I think we were on a break when we met and started hanging out because you and I started hanging out a lot.
What Express?
Yes.
Right,
And
correct.
then we got back together and there was a whole situation where because by this time I'm 19, he's already like 20, about to be 21. So now he's in the club scene, he's in the bar scene. And so we're fighting way more. And so then I started work. I actually was dating someone else when this drama happened at Euphoria. So I kind of was on a break with him and I
Oh,
met my
that's
ex.
right. That's
And so
right.
me and my other ex had just started dating and they were like acquaintances. And so he came to my work, my other ex, my new boyfriend at the time, came to my work to pick me up. And we always had to park in the back parking lot. And so my crazy ex was there waiting for me to see who I went home with because at the time he knew I was like dating someone, but I wouldn't say who it was because obviously they kind of knew each other through mutual friends. And I knew he was crazy because at this point, up until here, he had already been physically abusive with me. So I was a little afraid of him. So, and he always,
Your first ex, not the one you're with.
yes, my first ex had already been by this point, he had already been physically
So he
abusive.
graduated from emotional to physical.
Uh-huh.
Got it. Okay.
Probably like right at the end of high school, he started getting physically abusive. He actually did something at school where he like went to pull me by my, back then we used to wear purses as our book bags, like a big old purse you put your books in.
Hold on. Shut. Okay, continue.
And we were fighting at school and he went to pull the bag and he pulled it really hard on purpose. And I left a huge bruise on my arm. And the school police wanted to have him arrested, but I refused to press charges. So that was kind of the first sign of like him getting physical. And so it was only little things after that. He then, right before I started dating the other guy, right before we met, actually, you and I, we were walking down the street and we got in a fight because back then we didn't have a car either. We take the bus everywhere. We were so young, and we were walking down. Yes, the cat bus. We were walking down the street and we got into an argument, and he took my purse and hit me in my face with my purse, and I had a huge like welt and I had to stay at his house for a few days because I couldn't let my parents see. But by this point, he made me feel like I deserved it when those things would happen. So going forward to your story, we had broken up because now at this point, I'm sick of, he's going out partying. He's hanging out with some other girl all the time. So I'm like, well, I'm going to date someone else. He dates other people all the time. Why can't I? So I met this guy. He was really nice. And I wasn't used to that. I'm used to crazy and toxic and, very abusive. And so I started hanging out with this nice guy. Well, I stopped at this point. I had a cell phone and I stopped answering my crazy ex's phone calls. So he showed up to my work to talk to me, and my new boyfriend was picking me up. And my first ex got out of the car to like fight him. And my new
They
boyfriend,
knew each other, right?
Because they knew each other, and he saw who he was, and he was like, I'm gonna kill you. And so my new boyfriend had a baseball bat in his car because he already knew like this guy's crazy, I have to be prepared. Right. And so he like stood up, and then another girl we worked with, the massage therapist, she got out, and I think she had a baseball bat too, and she was
Elizabeth.
No, it was Shailene.
Oh, I don't remember Shailene.
She was like the massage therapist.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she was super sweet. And so she got out and she had a baseball bat and she was like, I'll kill you. And so my ex left. And this all happened in front of all of my coworkers. It was like so embarrassing.
Oh, whatever. Listen, we were all a shit show. I was taking naps on the bathroom floor when I was hungover in the salon. We were all a motherfucking shit show at Euphoria Salon and Spa. Okay.
That salon was just, I remember it got robbed.
Got robbed, girl, and you walked away and walked back up, and the robbery happened after you walked back up, so you didn't even know what happened.
No. And the girl was just crying.
And that poor girl was crying. You're like, what happened? Thank God you walked away.
So that place was a shit show, but it was still embarrassing at the time because I think only my close friends knew how crazy and abusive he was.
I don't think I even knew. I didn't know. I knew. No. I was thinking too, maybe that had something to do with you and I kind of like, I mean, I know it was me a lot not talking to you, but I wonder if Matt had, or I wonder if the ex had something to do. I'll edit that out. I wonder if the ex had something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, probably because I was embarrassed too, because I knew at this point.
We didn't talk about this stuff.
Exactly.
You didn't understand
by this point, I had gone back to him so many times that I knew I was stupid, but we had such a strong trauma bond that I couldn't escape it. So I started telling people, oh no, he's better. He's changed, because I felt dumb. And so a lot of people didn't know the extent of the abuse in general, and not even my own family. And so I think when he would show up and do these things in front of a lot of people, it really was hard for me, because then people would see, and I wouldn't think of it like, oh, thank God they see how crazy he is. Now they'll feel sorry for me. I felt like, wow, they're like, she's so dumb. Like, what an idiot, you
Wait,
know?
I mean, I think back then, I mean, there are different people that think different things. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I thought, girl. I don't remember. I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, like I said, a lot of my friends were dating similar guys. So a lot of them didn't judge me, because they're kind of like, oh,
This
or they
is
were dating
normal.
guys who seemed worse, to me.
Well, it's just like Crystal on the first episode when she was talking about the band and what happened with the band. She said that when she told her mom was like, "Good for you." And I mean,
Wow.
and she was from, I think it's
The
not
roadie
very,
time.
I mean, but she's also from not a great part of the city. Like, I mean, she's from, what is the word? I want to sound smart, but she's not, I think the way it's just different the way you're raised and how people look at certain things, you know? And some parents could think, my God, that's a fucking psychopath. That's a groomer. Other parents could think, well, bitch, this could be your meal ticket out of the fucking city,
Yeah.
you know?
But the thing is, too, with my ex, my parents had, I mean, up until this point, so much had happened. Like, we had already gone to court with his family because my mom threw a brick through their window. Like, his mom came and she said my stepdad pulled a gun on her. Like, we had so much drama with him and his mom, because he wasn't hiding the abuse. And so for a while, when we'd keep getting back together, I would kind of hide it from everyone, even my own parents, because it was embarrassing, because he was physically abusive. He did cause all of these things, but he made me feel like it was my fault. And like I said, we had such a strong trauma bond. And I felt like no one will ever love me as much as he loves me. So I have to like put up with it, because I'm never going to feel this way again. So it must be worth it. Like, this must be what all the movies are about. This must be how Romeo and Juliet felt, like, this is such a strong, passionate relationship. And by this time, we'd been together from time I'm 14 till I'm 20. That's a long time when you're a young adult, you
Young,
know?
a long time and a very impressionable time, a very
Yeah.
like imprinting on you behaviors and characteristics inside of you that are going to stay for a very long time.
Yeah, totally. I still get triggered to this day. I'm almost 40,
Of course. So what ended up happening like at the end? Like what was there like an event that was like enough is enough? Um
So I ended up going from one abusive relationship to another, but it
but
was a completely different type of abuse. So I didn't notice it right away. So after him and I ended, I started seeing that second guy exclusively, and we moved quickly, which I realized later on as part of my issue was like, I wanted to move quickly with someone. I couldn't be alone. And so we moved very quickly, and his abuse was different, because he would gaslight me a lot, but then I would be like, well, he's so nice. Like, I caught him talking to other girls behind my back and stuff, like on text, but he's like, oh, they're just my friend. And in my mind, I'm like,
oh, the one I'm thinking of was doing that?
yeah, yes. In the
No.
beginning, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And so he stopped. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't like checking his phone all the time, but he was very almost too close with his mother. So we had our relationship was like a three people relationship.
He wasn't almost too close. He was too close to his
Yeah.
mother.
I mean, he lived at home, he was an adult, but I like all the red flags I brushed under the rug, because I'm like, well, he's so nice to me. He doesn't hit me. He doesn't cheat on me. So he's a good
It
guy.
was
Like,
better abuse. It was better abuse than the last abuse.
exactly. Exactly. And so I put up with some of the things he was saying and doing, because to me, I'm like, well, this is much better than the other guy, even though that was no bar to compare anyone to.
Right.
I
Right.
just didn't have a lot of experience. And in the times when I was single and hooking up with men, all these men were trash too. So I'm like,
Well,
okay,
and
this guy's a good guy.
I think also our generation was sold a story that younger generations are kind of getting out of. And that story that we were sold was you need to you need to make money, but you also need to find that person, usually that man, that's going to take care of you so you can get that house, so you can have those scented candles, so you can have the children that you're supposed to have, so you can stay in this system. So this system, like America's still working, all this kind of stuff that we were sold. So of course you're going to hop into another relationship that isn't as bad, quote unquote, right?
Yeah. And he had money. He came from a home with money.
Girl, that's all you had to say, honey.
So coming from, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My other ex didn't grow up with a lot of money. So, we struggled financially as young adults trying to live together and figure things out. We took random jobs. So then I also saw this like, wow, I can marry this man who has money, his family has money. He's a good guy. Who cares if he wants to play video games all day and, ignores me and I won't talk to him for 3 days at a time. And
How
he,
was this? How was the sex?
so the sex didn't start out great with him, but I'm a very sexual person. So I feel like I trained him.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're welcome to his
Yeah,
wife or
you're welcome,
girlfriend,
whoever's
whatever,
benefiting
whatever
from
he
that.
has now, you're welcome.
Yeah, from that nice cock that he's fucking working for sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome,
So
bitch.
he hadn't slept with a lot of people before me. So I took that as, okay, he's just inexperienced. But looking back, no, this sex wasn't very passionate. I think I was just trying to create something because I wanted something. I
No,
had
that
friends.
idea we had to be with someone. Like we
Yeah.
were all in. I feel like talking about this and going back to times like Express and working, like I just had this innate feeling inside of me that was like everyone was on a race to not be alone.
Yes.
That's what we were doing.
Yeah. And have kids. So even being with him, he ended up buying a house. We moved in together. And right away, I'm like, perfect. Now I can get pregnant. We can get married, all of these things. I'm on the path. I'm doing everything the right way. I got out of that bad relationship and I ended up getting pregnant. And I told him, I was very excited, like, I'm pregnant. Well, we live together. And his response was, and to think I was going to propose to you.
Oh hell no.
I was like, what? I
No,
don't
this is
understand.
like all coming back to me now. Like I remember this story, but we haven't talked about it in so long.
And so I immediately felt small again. I felt like I was that person in that abusive relationship. He made me feel stupid for getting pregnant when we weren't preventing it, like, and so I was really confused, like, wait, but we live together. Like, we've already talked about marriage. Like, I don't understand why you're mad at me. Like, he really was mad. And he was like, I can't believe you do this to me. I'm still in college. I have my career to do. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you're freaking rich. What does it matter? Like, I can have a baby. You could still
I
go to
can tell
college.
you what was in his head. It was his mama. His
Exactly.
mama.
And his immaturity and his selfishness. We grew up with such different lives. I guess I didn't see it until that moment. So I went and I had an abortion to kind of appease him. And I remember after having an abortion, I was really upset about it. I mean, I
Of
had an abortion
course.
as a teenager as well. So it wasn't my first abortion, but it was the first one where I actually kind of had my hopes up for a minute. Cause like you said, I was getting that life aligned that we all have planned in our mind. And it was kind of the first time I was a little heartbroken and he completely ignored me. He went to bed in the other room. I cried myself to sleep. He didn't even comfort me. He really treated me like I did it on purpose and he's punishing me. So after that, I was like screw him. In my brain, I'm like, my ex would never do this to me. You know, I don't know why I was always comparing them. So I reached out to my ex and I cried to him, and he was like, of course, he bought right into it and fiddled it and manipulated me. And he was like, I would never do that to you. I love you so much. I would love to have a baby with you, and you should leave him. He's a piece of crap and blah, blah, blah. And so I cheated on that boyfriend with my ex. So my ex told my boyfriend, he called him or whatever, and he's like, yeah, I hooked up with her, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so my world kind of exploded, and I had to move out of his house. My best friend was living there with us. She was our roommate. We both had to move out very quickly, get a house. So I ended up getting back together with my ex, the crazy ex, because it was just like, it happened so quickly. I had the abortion, I cheated on him, and then all of a sudden I had to move out. And so I'm like, I ran back to the one thing that felt comfortable and felt, you know, so that's when we started our relationship again. And after that, it got 20 times worse. He never forgave me for loving someone else, for getting pregnant by someone else, for, you know, starting a life with someone else. And he basically never let me forget it. And every day he would cheat on me. He didn't even care anymore. He would just go out and not come home. And he'd be like, well, you fucked my friend and you did this. So this is like, you need to let me
Just
get
because you walk away from a relationship doesn't mean when you pick it back up. I mean, in my mind, it's going to pick back up where it left off, not
yeah.
you get a fresh start. So, of course, it escalated quickly because you guys were already in the grand finale of like what an abusive, I mean, one next step and it's going to be you're going to be at the fucking bottom of a lake and shit like that, you know?
And, you know, him and I had been broken up for 2 years. I was dating that other guy for 2 years. So in my brain, I had painted him as this like magical relationship of my childhood because my current boyfriend was treating me shitty. So I started to compare them. So I think when we got back together, I did think we could have a fresh start because 2 years had gone by. I was like, I'm sure he's grown up in 2 years. I know I have, and I know my mistakes, but it didn't. And so basically, what really ended everything was we dated for probably another year off and on.
Okay.
And it was just so toxic, so abusive. He choked me, he punched me, he tried to choke my roommate. Like the cops had been called so many times. He came to my house with a golf club and beat in my front door. He tried to break into one of my houses. He kicked the door in. Like it got very intensely abusive to the point where I was going to get a restraining order, but I was too scared because he was like, I'll find you, I'll kill you. You know, it got very scary. But I literally would go to sleep and be like, he's going to kill me. Like, I'm never going to be able to leave him. He's never going to let me leave. And like, I got like a calmness over me. Like, it's okay. Like, at least everyone will know he did it and he'll go to jail, but I can never leave. So this is my life now. And I'm just going to die.
I think too, we only have 5 minutes left, but I think with like the madness, you get so exhausted that I could see someone becoming, oh my God, okay, if this is it, then this is it. Thank God I just
Yeah.
won't have to deal with it any longer.
And so I fell out of love with him because I was so numb to everything. And then finally one day he just didn't come back home. And I was like, okay. And then luckily I moved all his shit out. And what really ended it was, to be honest, I met my husband, my current husband. And dating my husband, I wasn't in a place to be dating, but he really gave me the strength to like cut that part out. And he gave me the confidence and, you know, so that's really what ended it. And,
Well,
you
and
know,
you found a great guy who
yeah.
is a great provider. He's a great husband. He's a great friend. I think you got. I mean, if someone's gonna ask me, I think you're the fucking crazy one in that relationship, bitch.
True. It's true.
No, but I think you actually finally found, and I mean, maybe for everyone out there, I mean, I have never had like I've been in an abusive relationship, but it was more like gaslighting, and and I don't want to say this, but if I had to, I mean, I think I would be labeled as the abuser. Back in the day, I would have been no, but I think about some of the stuff. I never got physical, or I rarely got physical with my ex that I was with for 10 years, but I would manipulate and I would gaslight. I mean, I remember I would cry so drunk on the phone, and I would take a picture of me crying and I'd send it to James and I'd be like, this is what you did to me. I mean, so dramatic. So dramatic. And I would manipulate the situation, you know, or I would say, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. I would say shit like that, you know? I mean, thank God we ended our relationship when I was 27. We met, we were both, he was 17, 18, so similar to you. But I am glad, I think for everyone out there that's like, okay, well, what do we do with this? It's like, well, if we knew better, we would do better. Right?
Yeah. And one quote that always stuck with me is, you'll never leave where you are until you decide where you'd rather be. And I think at some point I put that in my head, and I woke up and I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. Right. I don't care what it takes. I don't want to die, or I don't want to get pregnant and be stuck with this person forever. And but you can't leave. No one will leave until they're ready. You know, if you have a friend going through this and you're like, I hate her boyfriend or her husband, nobody will leave until they're ready, you know? And that's just what it took for me. It took me
I think when people try and give advice, don't give advice to me or anyone unless the advice is asked for. Like, as a friend, you can put up boundaries. If you don't want to continuously hear about a relationship that someone's in, you could say, listen, you've already talked to me about this 3 times and it's like the same thing. So I can't keep listening because it frustrates me, but we can talk about other things. Or keep listening to them, because I do think we are gonna, I mean, I know for you and we will always roll each other's ideas off, and we will come to a conclusion with an idea together. But for the most part, when it's something individual in our individual lives, dude, we're just gonna make the decision ourselves, you know?
Yeah. Totally.
Anything else before we have to go? I know I need to upgrade on Zoom, apparently. They only let me do a certain amount of time. I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think that I put enough highlighter on my nose?
No, not it.
It looks as if I'm like Rudolph.
It looks like we're back in our party days and you just came back from the bathroom.
Girl, we didn't do that kind of stuff. We never did illicit drugs in our 20s. Are you crazy? We would never mix them with alcohol, darling.
Never. We never threw drinks on our exes' cars.
Who is that? A page out of someone's book? Listen, he deserved it. Okay, he fucking deserved it. That motherfucker. Anyways. All right, everybody. This has been episode 2 of Hallmonitor of the Universe show. Thank you, Marte. Go follow. I'm going to put it on here. Go follow Marte on her social media, her Instagram, her TikTok. Do you have a YouTube? Do you have an OnlyFans?
I need to.
Feet pics. And also, people, put your fucking shopping carts away, okay? Be a good citizen and put your goddamn shopping carts away. All right, baby. I love you.
I love you.
Smooches. Bye.
Am I supposed to hang up? I don't know how to do this.
Goodbye.